אשפוך לפניך את ליבי ודי בפניך אהבתי כי אתה אדוני אהובי אשפוך לפניך את ליבי ודי בפניך אהבתי כי אתה אדוני אהובי אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי אשפוך לפניך את ליבי זה בפניך אהבתי כי אתה אדוני אהובי אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי Let's sing that chorus again אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אהובי אתה מרים ראשי אתה אדוני אתה אדוני אהובי
One of my dreams when I was a child was to work with orphans, as I had read about others doing in the Bible. However, caring for orphans is very difficult, and there's so many challenges for the child and the adult. It was clear to me that the Most High had his hand on Isaac from a young age. The enemy had tried to kill Isaac even before he was born, and numerous times during his young life. I began writing this book in 2011 after we had gone through the most miraculous and most stressful time. This book is inspiring because of Isaac's experiences and how the Most High really brought him through so much from the time of his birth up until today. To purchase, go to sacredwordpublishing.com bookstore. Hey, Shaloha. Welcome everyone. We're looking forward to a fun class today. We're glad that you guys all decided to join us. I have my beautiful daughter-in-law here, Kaylee, is helping me out today. Noble will not be joining us today. Unfortunately, he is still busy doing a remodel job, so he's busy doing that today. So we have a special speaker, a special guest is joining us, Zach Lewis. We look forward to so much to introduce Zach to all you guys. You might know him from TikTok. He runs the Sacred Word Publishing TikTok channel. And so he and I exchange information quite a bit because I do the Sacred Word Publishing LLC Instagram page. So we share information that way. He does short excerpts from videos that Zen does, or Zen and I, or Zen and another guest will do together, and just takes these little blurbs of information to put it on TikTok. Much shorter, but to introduce people to this content, and I just love his ministry. And so anyway, we'll look forward to introducing Zach. We'd like to start with some prayer requests, but first I'd like to ask my son Isaac if he could open us up with prayer. That would be awesome. Look forward to a good class today. So Isaac, take it away.
Father, we thank you so much for another amazing day. We pray that your will be done in everything that you have. Please give Zach the words that you wish for him to say, so that we can glean off of the wisdom that you have given to him. Thank you for everything that you've provided. Thank you that the tech is running relatively smoothly, and I pray that it continues to do so. But again, above all things, your will be done, Yeshua. We thank you in your name.
Amen. Thank you so much, Isaac. So yes, we missed last week. For those of you that haven't heard, I had a slight accident. Well, I guess you could say kind of a major accident. It's a little tough for me to speak today because I have 2 fractured ribs here on this side. This will be included in the prayer request, of course. So if I sound a little bit winded, that's what's going on. It kind of hurts to talk for too long at once. So I have my two wonderful helpers here helping me today as far as speaking goes. If you guys have any prayer requests, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat. Tammy, thank you again for managing our chat. You always do such a great job at moderating for us. And to the other moderators who are there, I'm going to jump on in a few minutes after prayer requests, and I'll be in there as well when Zach Lewis is presenting. So we'll start out with some prayer requests, and you guys are also welcome to send them to us at biblicalhebrewhawaii@gmail.com. That's our email. I check it. I try to check it several times a week. I don't check it every day, but if you do have a prayer request, you can always contact me there. You can also contact me on Facebook. I know a lot of you follow my Facebook page under Lisa Seim George. That's SEIM, my maiden name. And so you can send me a message there as well. But the best way to send us a message is either right here during our live streams on the YouTube chat or through email. So some of these have been sent in through email, and I also moderate for Zen when he does live shows. And so if anyone puts prayer requests in there, I'll take that and I'll bring that over to our show. So if you see any prayer requests you'd like to adopt and pray for, please feel free to do so. I know a lot of you have sent me some emails saying you really appreciate this part of our show just because it's so personal, and a lot of you that have written to me have said that you guys even take notes and write down the prayer requests so you can pray for them throughout the week, or screenshots. I think that's so cool. Thank you guys for doing that. Thank you everyone who's been praying for me. But I'm going to stop talking now so I can catch my breath, and Kaylee is going to do the prayer request today.
Hello, Shaloha. Thank you for coming today. So we have a prayer request from Penny. Her friend's son is a 3-year-old named Elliot who has tumors removed from his lungs and is still going chemo treatment. So hopefully he'll heal sometime soon. Maybe
we'll be praying for him.
Yeah, we'll be praying for him.
Yeah.
Christy Frost, that her finances are top notch and that Bailey's eyes are healed. Mama Lisa, also known as Lisa George, she has her fractured ribs and you can sort of hear it too. So, of course, that's why I'm taking over. Rolando, his new job opportunity it goes smoothly.
Yes,
Right.
and be praying for that, Rolando.
Okay. And then Kay and Grace, their reunification, as well as Brianna Chavez's cousin who has cancer. Lillian, who would like just general prayers, so for her well-being, for mental health, good financials. And then Tina, that her eyesight be restored, as well as Sundown, who's healing from her diabetes. And then Faye got a back injury.
Yes.
Hopefully will heal soon too.
Yeah, we'll continue to pray for all these.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for sending these in.
Okay, and
this
Acacia,
This is Noble's granddaughter.
yes,
Okay.
who has a cold. Hopefully she feels better too. And Aiden, Pat, and Frida's eldest son, they're in Texas. Well, Aiden's the only one that's in Texas right now? Or?
Yeah, he
Okay.
just joined the Air Force.
Okay, so he's going through boot camp, so of course we all know how hard that is, right?
We went to a party, a going away party for Aiden with some really good food a week or two
yeah.
ago.
Yes.
2
good
weeks ago, I
food.
think. Okay.
And then Tanner, Pat and Frida's youngest son who broke his hand.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
just
we'll be praying for
recently.
Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That he heals.
Too much fighting, that's why.
I don't know if it was that or bodyboarding. We'll see.
Oh, fighting the waves.
I know, right? Punching the reef. I don't know. Maybe he punched a shark.
It's not doggy paddle, it's doggy punching.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then Donna Smith's husband, who is still healing. Kellen and Jeannie Smith for their safety throughout the winter season. I know it's cold.
Yeah, they're in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They used to be a part of our in-person Hebrew class,
Yeah.
and they decided to move from Hawaii to Wisconsin. So that that's a huge change in weather.
Yeah, and then Terry, Laurie, and Paige, who are our friends who will be hosting Mom
Yes.
and Dad while they're away.
Yes,
Yes.
that's another announcement I'll make later on. But
Okay.
yes, be prayers for them.
That our Love and Respect class at the Amasu
Mm-hmm.
Academy continues to go. Isaac and I go every Saturday or whenever we do hold those sessions, right?
Yes.
That's been helping us in our marriage. So if you guys want to come on over too, feel free.
We do that right after we do filming. We go and have Love and Respect class now at an in-person reading group at our friend's farm. So Noble calls it the Amasu Academy. If you guys are watching, you know what we're talking about. Okay.
And then for Wally, who is still healing from lupus, Kaya's fiance Lance just seeks salvation, and Aiden.
Oh,
that's
it's
a
the
repeat.
same thing.
Okay, so we'll just do this one.
And
Oh, okay.
Hallelujah.
Yay.
Oh, I
So-
got a prayer request now.
Okay.
I got one from Nathan.
Okay.
Nathan Reynolds. He were texting earlier this week, and then he asked for prayer and healing for his wife's health,
Oh,
What's his wife's name?
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
so if you guys hear that, a lot of you know who Nathan Reynolds is. He was a speaker at Sacred Word Revealed a couple of years ago, and hopefully he will be at our next conference as well. So we get to meet him in person.
yeah, and then he said as well as for wisdom and understand on us ministering to those who are very broken and in need of help, deliverance, and deep healing. So
They have an amazing ministry.
Yeah.
Nathan reaches out to people that nobody else would be able to minister to, and he and Chelsea, because Chelsea helped him through a lot when he still is through a lot of spiritual warfare things. So if you guys want to go over to his channel, it's Nathan Reynolds, The Linen Railroad, and they have a wealth of information on their channel. They teach about supplements and health all the way to hunting and knives and
It's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Isaac and I've seen a couple of videos too, so.
and they're fun too.
Yeah.
They're like a fun couple.
he's so engaging.
He is very interactive.
Yeah, he's an actor like you, Isaac.
Okay.
Okay, continuing for Isaac and my marriage.
Oh, and speaking of the class,
Yeah. Yeah.
Noble
and
must have been
then-
thinking of this a lot. He put it on her twice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the plan to do after this class today. So we might end just maybe like 10 minutes earlier. So we'll see how Zach's presentation goes. I know he has a ton of information to present.
Mhm.
We really look forward to hearing from him. He's actually done several interviews with Nathan Reynolds, if you want to check those out on Nathan Reynolds' channel. Zach, he's a wealth of information, and I've been getting to know him, and I want him to announce his great news for his family once we get him talking in here. But for now, I think we're going to take a short break so that Isaac can put Zach in, however he does that with the tech. If you guys can continue to pray for our technology to hold up really well today, that would be great. Isaac's always good at troubleshooting and doing everything, so we're just going to put him in charge of all that. But again, if you guys have any prayer requests, I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat after this. You can put it in the chat. Kaylee and I will actually both be checking it, I think, while Zach is presenting. So for now, you guys go grab water, go grab a snack, whatever, and we'll be back in a few minutes after Isaac gets Zach set up, and we'll introduce him to you, and then he'll do his presentation. Okay, so Shaloha, and we'll see you right after the short break. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys got a nice treat and something to drink and ready to settle down and hear Zach's wonderful presentation. We're looking forward to. I'd like to introduce him first. I first met Zach several months ago, I believe it. Well, last year. I think it was around the same time as the conference. And I think it's really cool that he's doing these videos for TikTok for Sacred Word Publishing, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and talk about his ministry and his family, and also a special surprise that the Most High brought into his life, into his family in the past week and a half. So Zach, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Tell us about yourself, brother.
So yeah, like everyone, I kind of grew up totally deceived and, didn't know my way pretty much around the world. Really wasn't into religion. I had a pretty rough upbringing. My mother and my father were both substance. They used drugs a lot, so I eventually got taken off of my mom, and me and my brother went to a placement and lived there for a good while mostly until I was 18. And
Wow.
then eventually after that, I got a job with one of the it was a schooling / home living type of thing, and I got a job there. And then I eventually just kind of moved up the chain, and I started painting commercially, and eventually finding a wife and having a couple kids, in which I just recently had a baby girl, added another baby to the family.
Woo-hoo, congratulations! And her name
Thank you so
is?
much. Thank you so much.
And her
So
name?
yeah, I have.
Her name
Sorry,
is?
what's your name?
I was just
Her
asking.
name is Sophia.
Yes, and explain to the group why you decided to name her that name. I love this.
So yeah, I decided to name her Sophia because in Greek, Sophia was wisdom. It was the word for wisdom, and so I am all about the hidden mysteries in the Bible and the ancient wisdom. And I love how Solomon really sought after wisdom. And that was his one thing, that he wanted wisdom. And I believe he was given that wisdom. And if you look throughout all the wisdom texts, it reveals who the Holy Spirit is, I believe.
Oh, for sure. That's a great name for your daughter. That I wasn't aware of some of this that you shared just now about your past. Now, how did you decide to get into making TikTok videos for Sacred Word Publishing?
So I was a follower of Zen for so long. It really didn't start out like that. I really started seeing the evil in the world, and I really started noticing that there was these people, the elites, they really worship Satan. And so I kind of ran to the Bible, clutching it with all arms, because I realized that if there's a devil, there has to be a God. And I started reading and started learning, and I started finding out about Rob Skiba, and then I found out about Zen Garcia, and I was just totally watching all their videos. And I started watching Zen probably, this was way before Flat Earth. This was when he used to read from the, I forget, it was the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. He would read the whole entire text out, and I was listening to him back then, and I was accumulating knowledge all throughout my years, and I would speak to people all the time about it, and they were all like, man, you need to like go on Facebook or something, do something, or go to these different social media apps and start, getting a following. And so I started with the TikTok, and I was pretty successful. I first started with just pictures. I would post pictures of like giants in newspaper articles, or just things like that, with a little bit of truth-seeking music in the background. And I really caught the attention of the youth on TikTok, and I grew a pretty big following there.
Wow, that's so cool. You've been listening to Zen longer than I have. I'm so bad at tech that I didn't realize that you could chat on YouTube and meet other people on there and connect with Zen and his family and everything until maybe 2019 or maybe 2020. And then just from there, but yeah, before then, you were listening to all of Zen and Rob's shows they did together, like the Book of Enoch. And
Yes. From beginning to end.
Oh, same here. We look forward to those every week. Like that was such an amazing awakening for so many people, and I think that's super cool. You're a part of that too. Yeah, and I really appreciate how you and I kind of work hand in hand when you send me some videos that you did for Sacred Word Publishing. I'll put some of them up on Instagram to showcase your work and also to get new followers on Instagram, kind of an idea of what Zen talks about. And I think it's so important because we're kind of in like a TikTok generation right now where a lot of the younger generation might not watch like a 2-hour show, but they're more than willing to watch a 1 or 2 minute TikTok presentation, right?
Exactly, and that's the one thing I realized when I first started getting into it, that this generation can't, or they won't sit there through, for me, it took obedience. I had to, I wanted to learn, so I constantly sat there and listened to 3-hour shows, but this generation, they don't want to listen to that, so that's why I kind of minimized the video. I tried to find points in the videos where Zen, Rob, or anyone else that I post about were like really on fire, and they were, putting a good bit of truth into a little segment, and I would edit it out and throw it on TikTok, and it's been pretty successful.
Yeah, and you also do TikTok videos for Nathan Reynolds as well. I think that was one of the first times you kind of maybe started getting to know our family a bit when we were featured on Nathan's channel.
Yeah.
When we had like a 4.5 hour, talk about a long interview.
that was a hard one to edit. But I gathered so many. I had like 20 of them that I sent to Nathan, and I felt bad because it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. But it was such a good show that I had to break it up a bit.
Yeah, no, that was a good one to kind of break down because we were going down rabbit trail after rabbit trail through those 4.5 hours, and it was so ironic because Noble and I had planned to be there for the whole thing, but at the beginning of that interview, Noble and I were on the plane flying back to Hawaii from the mainland, and Isaac just went ahead and started without us. So halfway through the interview, Noble and I come walking in.
Started without you. I didn't have a choice. You were late.
I think Isaac did great. I really do. I think he did great.
Thank you.
Plus, I really like that you guys brought up the Rod of Wonder and the Garments of Power to Nathan. That was something I've always wanted to bring up to him, just because of how passionate he is about going back to the old ways, and just knowing that Yeshua is going to come back with a rod of iron, and the Garments of Power is just so empowering.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was unreal because that was like our first time ever talking to Nathan, because we had hoped to meet him at the conference this past May, but that was when he and Chelsea were having twins, and so of course they're not ready to travel right after that. So we were glad to actually be able to meet him online and then be able to meet you through that. And we've actually met so many other people online just through that one interview that we did with him. And so we plan to do some follow-up ones with him. I think Isaac's actually going to be interviewing him as well. But back to you, Zach. So I'm looking forward to the information. Are you ready to go ahead and start presenting what you have today?
Yeah, so the information I'm going to be putting here today is kind of bouncing off of an idea that Rob Skiba presented. I'm going to later get to that. But first, we're going to start off with something that I really like when I first started getting into the Bible. I really like to find scientific evidence that proved that like the Bible was real and that His word was stable and it was actual for what it says. And I ran into this. Well, one of the verses in Deuteronomy 22:11 where it talks about wearing wool and linen together, and it says, "Do not do that." I never really understood why. That was one verse in the Bible that just always, I can never understand it. But then I read this article that a doctor named Heidi Yellen did a study on fibers, and this was the conclusion that the human body has a signature frequency of 100. The organic cotton is 100, therefore you don't want to wear a garment that is under 100 frequencies, which will lower your frequency. Pretty much will it'll make you harmful. And so, fabrics like polyester, spandex have a frequency of 15, and so if it's lower than the 100, it will make you have sickness, disease, inflations. All these things are linked to lower vibrational clothing. But super fibers like wool and linen both measure in at 5,000, which is an energy booster, and it energizes the body, and it helps to fight disease. But when you combine wool and linen, they totally cancel themselves out. And no one really knew about this until so-called scientists discovered this in about 2005. Like God wrote it about, or He told Moshe to wrote it about 3,000 years ago, somewhere around there. It's just, it's funny that things like that kind of prove the Bible. But also, right around the 18 and 1900s is when textiles started really booming, and they started actually making synthetic fibers. And this is something that we've kind of lost. And this is also why I like to get into Nathan's studies, because he actually gets into the natural fibers of clothing and how he thinks we should go back to it, which I agree.
Yep.
But also, and if you guys have any questions during this, just jump in. Lisa, I know you're a wealth of information, so I would love your input in any of this.
Okay.
Also, a verse in Hosea 2:9. Therefore, I will take back my grain in its time, and in my new wine in its season, and I will take away my wool and linen, which where I've given to cover her nakedness. And now I'm going to jump to a book called Dirty Electricity, and it was around the 1880s, 1800s, sorry, the 1800s. A Dr. Samuel Milham, the scientist who first alerted the world about the link between exposures to electromagnetic frequency fields and humans' disease. And now what he kind of was talking about in this book is that how right around the time of the 1800s when we started producing mass electricity is that it was a dirty form of electricity, and it pumped out a bunch of frequencies. And I really love how you guys sell those frequency blockers. They're awesome, and I love them. I actually bought one for myself that I have on my chain here. It's awesome.
I see that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I really want to get one of the Halo ones. I gotta save up for it.
Yeah, that's
But,
a lot of magnets on that one. That one's Isaac wears that one to work. Yeah, it's a good one.
But if you look in history, like a lot of things happened in the 18 and 1900s that really are concerning to me. Also with this dirty electricity, knowing that Satan was known as the prince of the power of the air, and also Yeshua says that he's seen him fall like lightning. So maybe that could be a correlation. If you've ever seen the telephone poles, the big ones that are going down the highway, they kind of look, the geometrical shapes on them just look wrong to me. I don't know if you guys ever seen them before, but they kind of look a little suspicious.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But so also during this exact same time was when when they took out the brain and the germ out of the bread, which was, I believe, was living bread, and also Nathan Reynolds talks about this too. But so what happened was right around the 1900s, they tried to mass produce the bread, and they couldn't because it pretty much got stale and it got bacteria and stuff on it within the first couple days. And so they realized that if they sift the brain and the germ, which they've been doing this for thousands of years, but to mass produce it, they sifted the brain and the germ out of the flour, leaving pretty much dead flour. And so they could mass produce it because it was dead. There was nothing living to decay. And right around that time, they started steel rollers, which pretty much vibrated the wheat berries so hot that it bursted out the bran and the germ. And the bran and the germ are the outer layer. The bran is the outer layer, and the germ is this little inside. It's inside of the wheat berry, and it's like the most nutritional part of the bread itself. And since the early 1800s, pretty much, unless you're milling your own bread and making it within about 3 days, you're eating dead bread, which is really, really bad for us, and linked to a lot of diseases out there. Also, in the 1800s, we get the mass production of rubber soles on our shoes. And so before this, we used to mostly wear like leather shoes, which the electromagnetic field, whatever you want to call it, it flows through that leather going into your sole, knowing that the feet have the most pores on your body. And so when you go out grounding and stuff like that, you're absorbing all those natural minerals and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that pictures of the ancient shoes, even the ones that like the Romans would wear. They're leather, and some of them even have pieces of metal kind of integrated in the bottom to do the grounding. Have you seen those?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, some had like wrapped around copper, kind of like a coil kind of.
Yes, yeah. I agree. The whole push to have everybody putting rubber on the bottom of their feet is definitely part of the agenda, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating that rubber is the only thing that like electricity, totally stays away from, and that's just funny that they put it right on the bottom of your shoes, blocking any type of thing that was useful to, given to us by the earth. But so in 1903, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds take over the schooling industry, replacing research, they totally took over all the colleges and the schools and replacing the study of the herbal medicines and putting in their pharmaceuticals for their companies. And so it's all around this time frame that all this stuff starts to happen. And at the end of it, I'll get to the conclusion why I think it all happened in this time frame. But also we have the evolution theory in Darwinism with Charles Darwin and his theory that we came from monkeys, which I don't subscribe to at all because there's just no proof, especially in the fossil record itself. So now getting into the dinosaur thing. Now this one was a little hard for me because, like everyone, we've been told this thing since we were kids that there were dinosaurs. You go to the museum. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, so we have the Carnegie Library or the Carnegie Museums here, which are pretty fantastic. The buildings are really nice, old architectural, but they're filled with dinosaur bones. And this was one thing going through my truth journey. I had to come to terms with was, are they telling me the truth about these dinosaurs? Were there really dinosaurs roaming millions of years ago? That's something I had to look out and search for myself. And so the term dinosaur wasn't coined until 1842 by an English paleontologist by the name of Sir Richard Owen. And the dinosaur, the word translates to terrible reptile.
Wow.
And so it's weird because when I first looked into it, I wanted to see if, because I've been to the museums a lot of times in my life. I'm like, well, I've seen dinosaur bones, so I know they're kind of real. But then I really started asking questions and seeing if these bones are real. But they're all castings, and they were made. They don't show you the real dinosaur bones. They're supposedly locked in a vault somewhere that only people with PhDs can go see. So
Right.
also, some of the first dinosaurs that were found were kind of a couple teeth, pretty much like a couple teeth, but it wasn't found until 1854 by Ferdinand van der Hayden or something like that. But it wasn't found until 1854. But the term, the word dinosaur was created in 1842. So they had a word for the dinosaur before they ever found evidence of it. So that just kind of was suspicious to me. Also, with when kind of the golden rush of dinosaur bones, which was called the Bones War, with these two paleontologists that were pretty much robbing each other, trying to get the best dinosaur bones, and it just seemed very like something was going on there. Looking more into it, we see that the one thing that I could never understand was why in all of history was there never a discovery of a dinosaur until the 1800s. I mean, you have thousands of years of world history, and we don't have any discoveries of dinosaurs at all. I've only seen a couple ancient depictions of what maybe could have been a dinosaur, but those, you would have to vet those pictures out and see if they're real or not. But also, like the Native Americans, they never mentioned dinosaurs in none of their legends. They've never found dinosaurs. And also, all around the world, you have farmers, railroad workers, road workers, ranchers, hikers, never finding dinosaur bones. But the only people that did find dinosaur bones were people that had interest in finding them. So that was very suspicious as well. Also, the same time this happened was Darwin was trying to prove his theory of evolution. And so this kind of helped him prove the case for his evolutionary theory. Also, if they ruled the world for millions of years, and yet they're only found in small parts of the world, I mean, we should be able to find them everywhere, honestly. But are all the fossils fake? I really don't know. I'm not to that conclusion yet. But what if they were a cover for dragons? So this is one thing that I had to theorize. Because every single culture has a story of dragons. The Chinese culture literally documents that dragons were real. I mean, we have instances like Marco Polo said during his travels into China, he reported families that were raising dragons up, and they were actually like tying them to chariots and stuff, like training them. Also, Alexander the Great was said to find a dragon in a cave, and his soldiers fought with it. And also, if you know the story of Saint George, he killed a dragon. And so, was the Smithsonian deliberately trying to cover up dragons and giving the crowd, the rest of us, this illusion of what they wanted to portray? That's something that I had to take into consideration.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Zach. I think of even like you look at the Chinese zodiac. It's all real animals on there except for the dragon, but why would they have a fake animal as part of the zodiac when there's so much evidence that they actually existed? So very good point. Thank you. That's super interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's just something I had to, because I mean I've seen so many things that could show proof of dinosaurs, but you have, because even looking at it from a biblical term of view, we only get a couple verses that actually describe maybe what a dinosaur could be. There's other ways you can interpret those verses as well, and they might not mean what they mean. So I've always took that with a grain of salt, but I've always seen that throughout the Bible it's dragon. So I'm like, these things might have been dragons. Maybe they just clipped the wings off of these fossils and just, hey, here's your T-Rex. But T-Rex probably had like 50-foot sets of wings and you can fly off and stuff and breathe fire.
Right.
And so, and also right around the time of the 18 and 1900s, we had these great wide fires throughout major cities around the United States, and also if you look throughout the world, these great fires that destroyed all these old world, ancient world buildings, what I kind of coined them, or a lot of people do. But these Gothic looking cathedrals that were beautiful and immense, and looking at the way they were the way that they were built. I mean, we can't do that now in this day and age. I mean, you could possibly say we could if it took the manpower, but in the timeline that they say that they got these buildings done, there's just no way. With horse and buggy, these people were building these things, and they were beautiful. But during the 18 and 1900s, if you look throughout history, there were these fires that broke out everywhere. There was actually a fire in Pittsburgh, of downtown, that destroyed like half of Pittsburgh. And so I can only imagine what was there before it was destroyed.
Oh yeah, for real. There's so many fires documented. I mean, there's even a song. I remember learning this when I was little about the Chicago fires. And so we were just taught all of this in false history in school, and it's hard. We got to relearn everything, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. And so, what I kind of came to terms with is that around it seems to me that around the 18 and 1900s, all the old world tech and architect was destroyed, but a new tech that was harmful to humans came about. Also, beliefs that went against the Bible and cosmology, evolution, etc. Right around this time frame, it was like the old world technology, kind of like these cymatic different buildings and stuff like that. These old world technologies were being destroyed so that they can hide it from us. But also there was another pretty much technological jump that we got through, but it seems to me like it's harmful to humans, because if you look at like things that I mentioned earlier, like the bread. You have the creation of dirty electricity. You know, Rothschilds and Rockefellers taking over the schooling, taking out herbal medicine, and all these different theories of, you know, where we live and how our history was. It seems that it was an orchestrated thing that they were pushing. And plus the technological boom during the 19 and 1800s, when we went pretty much from horse and buggy to flying planes in about 100 years. And this is kind of the conclusion where this is Rob Skiba's notes here, but have the fallen angels been released? And so if you read in the book of Enoch, first book of Enoch, 10 verse 12, and when the sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valley of the earth, till the day of their judgment and their consummation. And so Psalm 90 verse 10 defines a generation as 70 80th by strength. And so if you do the math, 70 times 70 is 4,900 years. 4,900 years away from 3000 BC takes you to 1980, which is right around the time where all of this crazy stuff started happening.
Wow, I like it. I'm horrible with numbers, so my ears perk up whenever anyone's doing numbers because I want to hear what you came up with. But so 1980, that's amazing.
So 1980, so that would bring you right around the closing around the 1900s. So right around the time frame of all this stuff happening, all these theories and inventions that were harmful to us, it seems that maybe the fallen angels were released in that time, and that's why we have this technological boom of this knowledge of how to fly planes and all these different things. Because if you look at the world history, you know, it took us 100 years to get from horse and buggy to flying planes, but what happened, you know, why didn't any of the ancients figure that out? I mean, I do believe that there was an old world knowledge that is lost to today, but I do think some families around the world still have that old world knowledge.
Yes, in your opinion, would that include the flying machines as well that we see in like pictures and that seem to have like loading docks at these ancient buildings with the spires, kind of like the Empire State Building? I don't know if you've seen pictures of that, but to me that's pretty amazing, the tech that they had before.
Yeah, if you look like you were saying, right around that timeline, they had some pretty decent tech. And even if you get more ancient, I mean, you read in the Vedics, they talk about like a flying saucer pretty much and how to build one. So I do think that there was an original from the fallen angels during the days of Jared. When they fell, I do believe that they gave knowledge to people, and that knowledge, you know, carried through history until I believe the release of the fallen angels around the 18 and 1900s, and then we got reintroduced with new technology, kind of, so to speak, or it was just hidden and it was just released again.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm interested to hear more of your studies on this. So you can please continue.
Yeah, so I kind of ended it out with you know, if the fallen angels have been released, then, you know, where does that leave us? Well, I urge you to look into Rob Skiba's Ephraim Awakening. Now, if you look into his Ephraim Awakening, he breaks down all these verses that show that the kingdom of sorry, I don't have any notes on it, but his conclusion is pretty much that during the 70 years that Israel was exiled outside of Israel, they were cursed for not repenting, and there was that the tribe of Judah I think it was the tribe of Ephraim never repented, and so they got 70 times their judgment, and their curse was lifted in 2009 and 2010. And so Rob Skiba believes that God's people woke up around that time frame. And if you look at the truth movement, it blew up around that time frame. Like Rob Skeeble was really onto something with this Ephraim awakening and the release of the fallen age, which I really do think he was.
Yeah, I agree. His research and his presentation is so valuable. I'm so glad that we're able to still access that today, and
Yes.
on different levels. Even though I know a bunch of his videos have been taken off YouTube, you can still find them on other, like Rumble, I believe, and maybe BitChute. I think is some of they put his videos on some other platforms that aren't quite as harsh with censoring. But yeah, his research is. If any of you have not looked at Rob Skiba's channel, you can go back and you can look at his playlists. Even here on YouTube, they still have a bunch of his stuff up, but you'll find even more if you go to the other platforms.
Yeah, even now, I mean, I'm still learning stuff from his research. He also sells, I think over here. He sells on his website. If you go to his website, he sells DVDs with all of his YouTube videos like on there. This is the Testing the Globe. This is all about the biblical cosmology and the way our shape of the world is.
Did
But
you?
this is probably like, sorry.
No, I was going to ask. Did you go through that when he was awakening to our true cosmology? Did you go through that whole study with him back in, I think, 2015 it was?
Yeah, I was hand in hand right there with him. I even remember when Zen was like, it was brought to Zen's attention, and he was like, well, you know, I'll look into it, because I do remember when Zen would read from the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, it talks about, you know, like kind of like space travel. It sounds like space travel, and the Anunnaki came here to get gold, and you know, so he would read those things, and I know that was something hard for him to get through, but we see now the fruit of what came about.
Oh, yes.
Once he did, because he unlocked something. Zen Garcia, his research with the Book of Enoch, for 500 years, no one understood the chapters of the heavenly luminaries. No one really understood that, because they were all putting their heliocentric worldview onto that text, and everyone was getting it wrong. Zen was like, well, you know what? He's such a truth seeker, and he likes extra biblical texts, and he went back to all these ancient texts, and he went to the Book of Enoch first, and realized, like, this has been hidden for the past 500 years.
Wow. Yeah, I was right along there in 2015. I had just discovered YouTube in 2014. So by 2015, when everybody started waking up to our true cosmology, I was right there too, and just watching video after video and sending it to my friends, and just trying to discuss it with Noble and with Isaac, and it was a time of huge awakening to the cosmology. But like you're saying, in that whole flat Earth movement, it seemed like there was a lot of people who were making the videos, and they weren't connecting it with scripture as much as like Zen and Rob. And that's what attracted me to their research, just because I wanted to have it connected to scripture, so that anybody who believes the Bible would be able to research it only using the Bible. But then, of course, you go to the extra biblicals with First Enoch and all the other ones that mention it even more clearly there, unless you go back to the Hebrew, of course, in the Bible. But I love it that Zen and Rob did that study, just because that in particular really opened my eyes to how much knowledge has been hidden from us in the extra biblicals. Was it similar for you, Zach?
Yeah, definitely. Their Enoch, when they wrote, pretty much started in Genesis, and they went all the way through into Enoch. That was some of the best commentary I've ever heard on those books, because especially with Zen's wealth of knowledge, bringing in all these extra biblical books, it was totally it blew my mind away sometimes, even with Rob's study and how far he went into the belief of the Nephilim, and looking into the ancient giants, and how he realized that the ancient mythologies of all the world, they all told the same story about these things coming down, mating with women, and creating these hybrids, and they were worshipped as gods, and he kept connecting it. And so when those two got together, it was awesome. It honestly awesome, and it really sucks that stopped. But we do have their testimony still preserved, and that's one thing that I try to keep their ideas and their visions alive through my work.
Oh yeah, we appreciate that so much, Zach. When I watched some of your other videos and was like, okay, I just knew that you were kind of on the same track as we were, as far as your awakening and the information that you've been studying. It's very similar, and I agree. The truth movement just seemed to like go into full force after 2015, when a lot of us had awoken to that was like the piece we needed to put things together with our true cosmology, right? Because without that, it's hard to understand. Like, I wouldn't have been able to understand those 10 chapters either in the book of First Enoch without understanding our true cosmology first, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because I read the book of Enoch before I got into Flat Earth, and I mean, the parts where, you know, the fallen angels and the giants, that was really interesting. But as soon as it got to those verses talking about the sun going around and, you know, the moon and how the celestials and the luminaries move, and I just couldn't get it. So I'd read it, but I'd kind of power through it, just not really trying to pay attention. But now coming back to this research, you know, with a new cosmological worldview, it's totally mind-blowing. And then especially reading through just the Bible, I mean, I can't see it any other way. I mean, knowing it all it takes is a historical fact that the authors of Scripture had a different cosmological worldview than we did. I mean, 500 years ago, mostly everyone believed that the Earth was flat, and you know, a lot of people now, they want to debate till the sun goes down. But it's, you know, if you believe in the Bible, you have to understand that the authors of Scripture did not have the same cosmological worldview as you did. It's just a simple fact. And once you realize that, you can start making sense of these verses that, you know, talk about a star coming down. You know, they didn't think that these stars were big balls of gas. You know, even
Right.
Yeshua tells us that all the stars will fall down to Earth. Well, if, like Rob Skiba said, if one of these stars come down, we're done. You know, so who cares about the Antichrist? Who cares about all these other things? If one of these stars fall down, it's over for us. So our cosmological worldview is not aligned with Scripture. Therefore, it's like a eisegesis, where we're planting things into the text that it's just not there.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to bring up even the research from so-called, well, he is a scholar, and we highly respected him, the late Dr. Michael Heiser as well, who Noble has read his book. We both read his books. Noble listens to his teachings quite frequently. But even though he wouldn't come out and directly say that, yes, we do not live on a spinning ball, he would always bring that up. He even was behind that artwork that we see of the Hebrew conception of the universe. That was Dr. Heiser. So he would always say,
Logo software.
yeah, he was one of the head. He was the head guy for the translation department of Logos, and he would even though he would never say we live on a flat Earth, he would come out and say, well, the ancients all believed that this is what our cosmos looked like, and so he would always go to that particular piece of art and show it. And then Noble and I would be, when he's trying to explain, he actually has some teachings on our cosmos and what the Hebrew conception of it was. And when he's teaching this, Noble and I are always in the background going, oh, he's a closet flat earther, he's a closet flat earther. Because working for some company like as prominent as Logos, you're not going to come out and say something like that, because it's all educate, you know, it's all PhD guys, you know, they don't want to hear that for the most part.
Yeah, I love Dr. Heisner's his research. I mean, especially with the Council of the Gods, that was amazing. You know, looking into that stuff. But yeah, with his research into the cosmological worldview of the authors of Scripture was phenomenal, because he came to it and with, you know, he dropped all of his beliefs and just said, okay, I'm going to look at the text and what does it say? You know, what is it telling me? What did the authors of Scripture believe?
Right.
And I don't agree with his conclusions, because he believed that, I believe they coined a term for it and it escapes my mind, but they believe that God didn't want to reveal the true nature. Pretty much didn't want to correct these dumb farmers and dumb, he pretty much claimed that. And that's one thing that I disagree with, because I don't think God would continue a lie, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
something I don't think that he would do.
No,
But
I agree with you.
Rob Skiba always brought up that picture, and he got in trouble a couple of times. They actually came after him, Logos Bible Software. They're like, hey, you can't do this, and he was like, well, it's on your website for free, so you're using it, so why can't I? It's just,
Yeah.
I'm getting more attention on it. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And Dr. Heiser uses that particular depiction in quite a few of his talks. And it's so, to me, it's kind of hilarious, because he's trying to explain that they used to believe this, everybody used to believe this. In the past 100 years, it's drastically changed. It's like, and you don't believe this, but you're like a Hebrew language guy, it just, to me, it's just kind of humorous, because it's kind of like, our true cosmology is so taboo to discuss among the so-called highly educated people. I don't know, I don't understand why. It just, maybe it's that stigma that we're taught in school, where people will tease those who believe the earth is flat. That must have stuck really hard in a lot of people's minds, because Rob really got a lot of flack for that. It was sad to see how the educators treated him.
Yeah, it was. I look at it like this, because there's a lot of really smart people that it just glazed over, and you can see even, because I've been in the truth community for a while, and you can see like these great researchers that have been in the truth community for so long. Once Flat Earth came out, they kind of they pushed themselves in their own little group and stayed in that group instead of looking into what we believe. They just kind of said, oh, that's a little too taboo for us, but they were already into some taboo things. But you could really see that that transition, from looking into all these different things and then Flat Earth coming into it. I really like to use biblical cosmology, because that word Flat Earth just makes people run.
Yeah,
But,
I agree. You got to word it right, or otherwise people will be like, "Oh, you're one of those flat earthers, aren't you?"
yeah, it's a little hard, but even you could bring it to them at a scientific view at it, and just like with water, with it, the properties of water will always find its level, and that's a physical thing that you can prove over and over again. And go out to, you guys live right,
Yes.
you guys live on an island, so you're always looking out at the ocean, and it's flat as a pancake.
Yeah, exactly, and especially when you can see on clear days when they don't spray us like crazy over here. Early in the morning, I've had friends take pictures for me through their zoomed lens on the north shore of Oahu, and they can see Kauai very clearly, and it's 100 miles away from the beach, sitting on the beach.
That's amazing, because I've seen pictures on TikTok, and like a lot of TikTok flat earthers will use that picture in their videos and talk about that. How like I forget how the distance and how much it should be under the curve, but it was astronomical. Just like, if you go and look on the Guinness World Record of the longest photo shot, it's like a ridiculous 700 miles or something like that. But
Wow.
what these photos, these high zoom lens cameras that we have now can actually see, it's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I went out and got one of the Nikon P900s. I wanted to do my research, and then I had some issues trying to work the camera in the first place, had to reread all of the different instructions, but we were able to use it and get some pretty good shots in. But like I said, it's hard when it's not clear. Like when they spray us at night almost every night now, and so we have to, in order to see things at night, you have to kind of go through the chemtrails and hope you're going to have a clear night or clear early morning anyway. But yeah, so that's part of our awakening as well with our true cosmology. And I agree, I like to call it true cosmology as well when I'm talking with people about it.
Yeah, because if you look at some people that just don't get it, there's a verse that escapes my mind, but it says, God's going to send a delusion on these people that don't love the truth. If you don't love the truth, this delusion, it's like scales over your eyes. You're not going to see it until you really start loving the truth. And I believe that loving the truth is is like literally obeying his word and reading what it says. And
Yes.
if you go through Genesis, it doesn't depict a spinning ball flying through space at these astronomical different directions. And then we could look up and observe the North Star. For thousands of years, people have been using this as a navigational point, and it's never moved. It's just, none of it makes sense. All of our senses tell us that we're living on a flat, non-rotating Earth, and that's just how I look at it. And you know, even with Rob in this video, because I think this video right here, it's like 60 hours of all his pretty much
Wow.
or 20 hours worth of content, and this is his in here he really cracks down on the firmament, how that's just like a nail in the head kind of thing. To really get this down is the firmament, how the Hebrew people believed that it was hard. You know, there was a hard structure above us, and it's hard to get your mind around it, because we've been taught, you know, that there's an ever expanding universe and that the possibilities are endless. But we're kind of like in a prison, so to speak. I mean, it's a very big, beautiful prison, but it's mostly a prison. It looks like for fallen angels that were trapped down here with us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that depiction. And Zen has some good books out on that too. His Firmament and Vaulted Dome of the Earth, that's another good one. You mentioned that Flat Earth to Decrypt the Book of Enoch, another excellent one. He's got that Flat Earth trilogy. I'm trying to remember the name of the third one. But yeah, if anyone is interested in buying some really thorough and amazing books, go to sacredwordpublishing.com and look for the Flat Earth trio, and I would get all three. We sold out of those pretty quick at the conference when I was running the booth for them, and it's amazing how so many people are even still waking up to this concept.
Yeah, I've been trying. My library, you can kind of see it a little bit in the background. It might be a little far away,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of Zen Garcia books. I was having a good, with work and everything, for a couple good years, so I definitely I was buying a ton of books. There's a bunch of books that he keeps. I mean, Zen's real quick with coming out with books. So
Oh, yeah.
there's a bunch that I really want to get. Also, with the New Testament Apocrypha, I got the first two. I need to get the volume 3, which just came out. Those are amazing texts, by the way.
Oh, definitely.
Those are amazing.
Definitely. I've been using those to teach kind of off and on here in our channel, and the information that has been held back from us for so many years is just, it would have been nice to know all this information, you know, about the infancy gospels, about how each apostle wrote a gospel. Basically, we don't just have to deal with only a few in the New Testament. And they had apocalypses as well, like the Apocalypse of St. John the Theologian. That's grown to be one of my favorite, like, New Testament era type of books, just because it's so similar to the Book of Revelation, but it gives so much more detail, like, and by probably a similar author as well, by John or Yochanan.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones for me was the Acts of Andrew and Matthias with
Oh,
the City of the
man.
Fingers.
Yes.
And when I make videos for you, for Zen and you guys, I'm probably like a couple weeks behind making it, because I had a lot of things happen. I just moved into a new house, just had a baby, so a lot of things are working. And I'm also a commercial painter, so I kind of want to like just paint this whole house just to get it freshened up, but it'll come in time. So making videos, I'm a little behind. Plus, I also make videos for Jeremiah Skiba at Skiba News Nation.
Oh, nice.
I actually help him run his TikTok account. But with Nathan Reynolds, I just help him make the videos, and he actually has his own TikTok account, which I just try to help him out, because he has a bunch of videos that he wanted to go through, and kind of he wanted to be able to reach the youth. And that's one thing that I've been trying to help him with.
Oh, that's definitely, it's so important, your ministry, just doing that, Zach. That's so important. I mean, you do so much to help out other ministries and to reach the younger generation, especially. Very good. Let's hear some more of your research, brother. Sorry, I took you on this rabbit trail about Flat Earth.
No, you're good. No,
Okay.
I like, because me and you kind of, we were students of all this knowledge, so it's kind of awesome to talk to another student and like get another perspective of how the truth community kind of came up. It's really interesting seeing your perspective of Zen and Rob, and because I listen to a lot of people. I listen to Nathan Reynolds. I still listen to Now You See TV. I listen to a lot of channels, and Ellie Marzulli, Stephen Quayle. I listen to a lot of channels, and I try to share them. That's one thing that on my platform I try to do. I try to be a beacon for truth seeking. You know, like all these different people. I try to share their knowledge so that my following, my community can learn the things that I've learned, because I see the world and the way it's going, and my generation especially they're lost. I mean, they are totally lost, and they are just going and doing whatever, and it's such a lack of knowledge that we're going to be destroyed unless we really ramp this up. And excuse me, that's why I think that the watchmen are being called right now, and that's just one thing I'm just trying to do, is that I'm trying to be able to tell my kids that I seen the sword coming, and I tried to warn the people. And that's one thing that I've been trying to do with my TikTok channel. I've been sharing testimonies of so many people and all their information and research, trying to reach it out to the masses before the time comes.
Oh yeah, you're definitely a watchman. I really appreciate your information. I do a very similar thing on my Instagram account, and also with Sacred Word Publishing Instagram, to just try to get the information out there as simply and as short for all these very short attention span younger generation people that are not going to watch a 2 or 3 hour video, right?
Yeah, because I was one of them. It was hard for me to sit there, because I send videos of people, my friends. I'll send videos to them like, hey, if you want to get this, watch this video. And they're like, how can you sit there and listen to that? I'm like, dude, it's interesting to me. It's like it's a hunger for truth. It's something that I've always been interested in. I've always liked mythology and history, and I've always loved Greek mythology. And that's why Rob was such like a big impact on my life. Was he got into the mythologies and the legends, and that the Titans of old were actually the first round Nephilim, and they actually lived, and they fought. If you read in Enoch, they fought this huge battle and killed each other, because I think it was Gabriel or Michael came down and I think he whispered madness in their ears, and they totally fought. And the people at that time stylized it as the Clash of the Titans, which we know of mythology. People think are fairy tales when these things actually happen.
Right.
Another.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. Another thing I wanted to bring up. So I'm an avid researcher of the Nephilim. I love looking into it. I have Rob's videos here. This is about probably 50 hours worth of research right here of all Rob Skiba's information on the Nephilim and how they might come back. It's just awesome. But also, there's a book that there's a couple books that I want to. Sorry, it's a little tight here.
No, it's okay. That video series you just held up, I believe I went through that whole thing back in 2015 when I was waking up to so much. I remember my son Isaac and my husband, they would be downstairs. I'd be upstairs, because I was in bed. I was sick quite a bit in 2015. And so I'd be in bed and I'd be researching and watching all these videos and everything, and I'd come out of the bedroom and I'd announce to them the latest thing I'd uncovered. And I remember Isaac at one point, he's like, Mom, you gotta stop with this. You just keep blowing our minds, and you just gotta stop with all this craziness.
It was overload, because it's like I believe it, but it's also like, oh my gosh, it's too much. Like,
yeah, that's what happened when I first watched the Rob Skiba video. It was like a total overload, and I think I watched him for like a week straight, and then I realized I needed to take a shower, actually go back to my day-to-day life. But it was hard to get all that knowledge that get kind of out of my head. But
Zach,
for the people.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
But also, no, sorry. But also another kind of time when I like had a truth explosion, kind of like you were speaking about. It was during the COVID lockdowns. There was a mass influx of new information kind of about the so-called Pizzagate. I don't want to get us banned here, but there was a bunch of people who pretty much throwing out all this research, and it kind of was led by that movement Q. Now I look at that. I don't know how you guys look at that movement, but I kind of look at it. If you look at this government document called Operation Trust, it's kind of like the government's pretty much puts in someone to rile up the people, give them a little bit of truth, but then also gather them all up, kind of, so to speak. But they were putting out good information in the beginning of it, and it was all concerning the Hollywood elites and what they were doing behind closed doors. So that was another time that I had a bunch of like truth just slam me right in the face, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Zach, real quick. There's some
Yeah.
requests in the chat of, could you give your information? Someone's asking. I know you do have an Instagram account, and if you could give your TikTok and Instagram account information, and any other way that people could, if that's the best way to get in touch with you, or if they have questions, maybe you could just give your information, how to reach you online, and what your platforms are, please.
Yeah, no problem. So, you can find me on Facebook at Zach Lewis. It's kind of the same picture you see up at the beginning of the video. I'm also on Instagram at Zach Lewis. I really don't post much on Instagram. I tried to merge my Facebook with my Instagram, but I'm not very tech savvy at all. For some reason, I got TikTok. For some reason, I know how to do that, but any other app, I'm kind of horrible at. I'm also at TikTok at ZLewis7770, and you can find me there. And I also have a couple backups on TikTok as well at ZLewis777. It's like a _2, 3, and 4. I have about 4 backups, and then also I run the Ski Business Nation, and I run the Sacred Word Publishing TikTok for Zen Garcia and Justin as well.
Thank you, Zach.
No problem.
Did you want to take a short break before you go into the rest of your information, or are you pretty much good to go from here?
I mean, it's up to you guys. If you want to take a break, good.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Just take as many water breaks as you need to in between, and
Alright.
everyone's excited to hear your information here.
Awesome. So, so for like Giant 101, if you really want to get into the Giants and stuff like that, I would recommend these books. This is Giants on Record by Jim Rivera and Hy Newman. Now this goes through about thousands of newspaper articles of the giants that were discovered in North America all throughout the 18 and 1900s, and it is rifled with information. You have to see, I kind of got a lot of post-its here.
Wow.
But there was one that was very interesting in this book, that because I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that's kind of in the upper regions of the Appalachian Mountains, kind of, so to speak. And so there was this mound that's recorded in this book here, and it's called the McKees Rocks Mound. Now it was the biggest mound in Pennsylvania, and when the Smithsonian came in and started digging it up in the 1900s, they as they were digging in their documentation, they said that they found giant bones that were of giant proportions. Now the Smithsonian totally swept it under the rug, and they demolished the whole entire mound, and they ended up making a baseball field. And if you go on my TikTok, you could actually see a video that I did where I went down and filmed where this baseball field was, and I kind of walked back along the trail, and you can kind of go behind the baseball field, and there were actually like littler mounds, kind of looking like Indian burial graves, all along the back side of it. So they destroyed one big mound in the middle, but it looked like it was surrounded by little mounds. And it's just so interesting that if you read in the Indian legends, they claim that they never built these gigantic mounds that were all around the world, and also all around the United States. If you look there are many many mounds that are all throughout the United States. And if you look into the mound builders themselves, they don't know about who they were and where they went. They kind of lived during a period of time and disappeared. But there's a couple other books that go into the Indian legends and how the Paiute Indians, they believe that, or not they believe, but their legends tell that they fought these giants, these red-haired giants, and they actually stuffed them into that cave, that Lovelock cave, and they burnt them down into there. And the one granddaughter of the chief that tells us this information, she actually had a necklace that was given to her by her grandfather that had red hair. And they took hair from these giants because these Indians, they were getting cannibalized and they got sick of it. So they gathered up all the tribes and they totally went after these red-haired giants that were cannibals. But so in the research of giants, you can look at this book. This is a great book for giants. This is Giants on Record. Another one is by Fritz Zimmerman, the Encyclopedia, right here, of the ancient giants in North America. This is a great one. Fritz Zimmerman does a great job in his information. He's actually pretty good friends with L.A. Marzulli as well. And I think Zen had Fritz on a way back when.
Yes.
About his book of the Illuminati Bloodlines, I believe so.
Yes.
But also, so one book I can never get was, so Steve Quayle wrote this book called Genesis 6 Giants. And every time, so back in the day when I first started getting into it, the book was probably around $35. And if you go on Amazon now and look at it, it's about $300 to $400. It's ridiculous. But I found one. I found one for like $60. It was used, and I got it.
Wow,
Awesome.
Congratulations. We got that too when it was $35. I was so happy we got it. My goodness.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I was messaging a lot of people trying to find it. Because when you're into giant research, this is the go-to book. I mean, everyone quotes this book. Everyone wants this book. And it seems that when the government or the people in power, when they don't want you to know this type of knowledge, or they don't want you to read these types of books, it seems that they jack the price up astronomically for these books. And if you look at another book that I really want to get my hands on is it's a Russ Dizdar book called The Black Awakening.
I want to get that too.
Nathan Reynolds talks about it a lot. Go on and see how much that book is running for about $3,000 to $2,000. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And it's just like, okay, so they're like, you're making a book go this expensive. I'm like, I really want to read that book now.
Oh yeah, just like have you heard of the Dictionary of Demons and Deities? I call it the DDD. It's about 4 inches thick and it's a hardback, and it's kind of like a college type book, but now UCTV has referred to it quite a bit. Dr. Heiser uses it quite a bit. And we bought it like maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and it was only $45. And now it's over $500. It's and it's out of print. So I think that I agree with you. They do this especially to books. It's like the modern day book burning, right?
Yep, it definitely is the modern day book burning, because they know, one, that people don't really read anymore, so they just jack the prices up a little bit. No one's going to buy it, and eventually they're just going to go poof and fade away. Because I know my Amazon list, I have so many books that are that say like one more left, and you know what I mean. There's only one more in the whole entire Amazon system, but like, I guess I pick out the most mysterious kind of books, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's and I look on eBay a lot, and some of the other alternatives to Amazon, because sometimes you can find things for a little cheaper there, but for the most part, it's tough to find these, and it's so important to have paper copies too, like you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one thing that I agree with Zen. That, going through Zen's research, he kind of instilled that into my head that, one day we're not going to be able to have. One day they're going to start deleting these off here, off all these websites and stuff, and we need to actually have these hard copies. And I don't know if you know, but Disney just bought the rights to the Bible. They bought rights to certain portions of the Bible.
Really? I didn't know
I
that.
swear I showed you the
Yeah,
video,
look
man.
into it, man. They bought.
Well, you
I
said
didn't know
that's
you could
your
buy the
other-
Bible, but I mean, I guess if you got enough money, you could buy anything. But
Oh my goodness.
I heard that they bought shares of it or something like that, and I just can only assume what's going to happen when they start printing out their own Bibles or their own stories or whatever.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
just-
For sure.
I. No, go ahead.
I just want to, there's a comment in chat. Sherry says, I visited Monk's Mound, Cahoica Mounds near St. Louis, Missouri as a youngster. That there was a museum with bones on display there, but they're all gone now. So kind of along the same lines we're talking. I'm really interested in what in that video. I remember seeing that on your TikTok channel of you going and exploring the area with the mounds. It's so cool when you can do in-person exploration too, right?
Yeah, it is fascinating because as soon as I found that out, I was like, wait a minute, that's like 5 minutes from my house. So I ran down there, and the spiritual tension of being down in that area was telling because I was with my son, and the first time I had my brother filming, and we just kept messing up, and the wind was really blowing hard, but I just had this pit feeling in my stomach that like something wasn't right, and so we ended up leaving and coming back on a better, clearer day, and you can kind of see in the video it changes days, but I came back and the sun shining, and I felt better because I really prayed before I went there. I didn't bring my son there the next time, or I think I did, but I really prayed up before I went there, and we had a decent shot that time, and that's when I kind of went back, and you could see if you go up on the hill, they were right next. So Pittsburgh has 3 rivers. The 3 rivers, they converge into one to making the Ohio, and they go all the way down to the Ohio River, all the way down to the Mississippi. But they had an advantage point of these 3 rivers, so they were seafaring people. So these people, and if you look into the research of many other people, but knowing that America used to be called the land of the plumed serpent, and looking at all these different cultures, they worship the serpent as their god, their knowledge-bringing god. And these people were cannibals. That was one of the things that came with them was cannibalism. If you look at the conquistadors that went down into the Mayan temples and stuff like that, when they went down in there, they were horrified at what they were seeing. They were seeing meat markets like being sold around. It was really disgusting. But these were what the fruits that you get from these serpent worshiping cultures. It's just with the Nakash, you totally are consumed by this stuff. A wanting for blood. And if you see in Genesis that when God curses the serpent, he curses him to eat dust. We see that it was made from dust, Adam. I mean, see why that they have this bloodlust of cannibalism.
I never put that
As they were-
together. Wow, I never
What'd you
put that
say?
together. Oh my goodness. Okay, you just blew my
Sam
mind.
brought that up to me years ago.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, bloodlust.
Yeah, we were made
That's
from
why
the
they're
dust, and the
cannibals.
serpent was
They're
cursed
cannibals.
with eating dust. He was cursed with eating us. That's why what we were just talking about the city of the man eaters. They were totally consuming people's blood.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, if you look at that, the Bible tells us that the life, the soul essence, is in the blood. So, why do you think Abel's blood cried out when it was spilled on the ground? His blood was literally crying out. So, I definitely, once I realized that the serpent's food was us, that started all these different doorways of, Pizzagate, spirit cooking, all these different things that the elites are into. You even look into history that there were a bunch of people into this stuff. There was a Queen Elizabeth, I forget when I don't know when she lived about in history, but she used to go down to the town's girls, and she would get girls and bathe in their blood,
Oh.
because she believed that she would look younger if she bathed in their blood. And if you look at some of the skin products in today's skincare stuff, most of these things have this aborted baby fetal tissue and different body parts and just things like that that are disgusting. But they know that these things, this is the soul essence, the life essence that, I guess it gives you not an immortality, but it, I guess, knocks a couple years off of what you're looking for. If you see some of these celebrities that are like crazy old that you don't see it. They look like they're 30. And,
Yeah.
You gotta really look into. I don't want to say these key terms on here. I don't want to get you guys banned, but you can look into the white rabbit and.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Thank you for being mindful of that. I just wanted to touch on this too. You made me think of this. Now, it's because the serpent is cursed to eat dust, which is humans. That's going to be backwards during the marriage supper of the Lamb, right? Because I always wondered why it's so significant that the saints will basically fillet Leviathan, right? So we'll be eating Leviathan.
I was just about to say that. The saints eat Leviathan because Leviathan, you chills all over my body. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing because he's kosher, supposedly. Leviathan is kosher because the end-time remnant eats him.
Yeah, exactly. I think
I've
that.
never put that together. Like, as soon as you were talking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. The end-time remnant eats Leviathan.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, I just thought of that when you were talking about how the serpent was cursed to eat us, and the serpent's seed basically too, right? Like the offspring we know is Cain, and the descendants.
If you follow Gary Wayne's work and all throughout the history, there were serpent cult that sacrificed using blood, but also they ate their victims. And
Yes.
So if you look through all throughout history, these giants, these red-haired giants, they all came with cannibalism.
Right.
So,
Right.
Even looking at the Mayans, they worshipped Quetzalcoatl, and he was their sun god, but they sacrificed to him daily, and they would consume the flesh, and that was. And if you look, there's a older book. I think I brought this up in a not Ask Me Anything. I think it was a Patreon Ask Me Anything for Sacred Word Publishing. I brought up that there's an old Spanish Bible called the Alba or something like that. It's an old Spanish Bible, but it depicts Cain and Abel's story and how kind of Cain kind of like right when he pretty much killed his brother. The way he killed him was he bit him like a serpent in his neck, and they actually depict it. And actually, in the Apocalypse of Moses, it actually says the same thing, that Eve had a dream that that Cain was drinking his brother's blood, and Cain or Abel cried out to him and says, "Please, don't drink it all. Don't take all of my blood." Like, and he pretty much drank it all, so to speak.
Well, he was part serpent, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you look through all throughout the historical account, it fascinates me of how people in history that worship these different cults, that they lean more towards these ideologies of cannibalism and blood drinking and stuff like that. And then you look into modern day like witchcraft and stuff, and like what these people are doing behind closed doors. It's all the same stuff. It's just like Solomon said, that nothing is new under the sun. Everything that has been done will be repeated. These endless cycles. And I think that this stuff still happens behind closed doors. I mean, even hearing Nathan Reynolds' testimony, I mean, that's just a confirming witness to me that this stuff really does go on, and it's disgusting. But we need to stand strong and need to shout this stuff out to the rooftops. And I've heard Nathan Reynolds' his testimony a while back, and I started getting into the whole TikTok thing. But I'm really eager and really ready to help him with his fight, because his testimony is so powerful, empowering, that it makes men want to be men, and it makes you want to go out and do these things. Like his testimony is so powerful. So I'm very thankful that I can help him with his journey. With
Yeah.
his journey as well.
Yeah, that's so important that he gets his story out there, because he's literally being like kind of like hunted, even at this time, and they're still being. I mean, and I don't think that it'll stop. But the more support he has with prayer and with those people like you who help to get the word out about his information he has to share. I mean, it's like one of a kind almost.
Yeah, honestly, and you read his book. I mean, he tells you of the encounters that he's had with his family, and
Yes.
it's amazing the things that he endured and went through, and from him coming from a hitman point of view, like he was a legit hitman, and when they encountered him, he didn't fight. Like that was one thing that, because when I first came into this belief, I was kind of like a doomsday prepper. I would prep for the end of the world. I took out $10,000 in debt and bought ammos and guns, because I really thought that the world was going to end. So I was like, screw you, J.B. Morgan. I'm taking $10,000 and I'm buying a bunch of guns and ammo. And with his ministry, it really helped me to realize that I can have all the guns and ammo in the world, but unless I'm in covenant with unless I have a good relationship with my Father, I'm shieldless out here.
Yes.
I don't have my sword with me if I don't have him with me. And that's one thing that I realized through his testimony, is that he was able to wage a war without those carnal weapons. He was able to wage a war with, the weapon, the sword of his mouth. And it's powerful. It is powerful. I mean, I feel a lot of times when he speaks that fire come out. It's powerful, man. It definitely is. And you could see throughout all these different truth seekers, throughout this movement, you can feel that. You can really feel that when they really start speaking and they get into it. It comes out, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
I try to captivate that.
Yeah, we can hear that in your testimony too, Zach. I think it'll be good.
Oh, thank you.
For those of you too that are listening, we're gonna have Zach come back again next month. Isaac and Zach will be corresponding up until that show, and they're gonna have a similar talk to what Zach and I are talking now, but I think it'll be more of your testimonies too, because I think you and Isaac have a lot in common, just like what I was thinking about Isaac and Nathan. Like even parts of Nathan's story are very similar to Isaac's, and I think you could probably relate with that as well, Zach, just hearing a little of your testimony.
Yeah, I've had a rough upbringing. I mean, it was rough for me before we got taken. It was rough in placement, but before we got taken, there was weeks we didn't have electricity. There was weeks with no gas. We didn't really have food in the house most of the time. My dad left when I was really young, so most of the time when my mom, she was on drugs most of the time, and the food stamps that we got, she would sell them. So I was 13 years old, and I had to eat somehow. So
Wow.
me and my brother, we'd go steal, and that was the only way we really knew how to feed ourselves.
Wow.
We had friends that would help us a lot, and our friends, we kind of grew this bond together that was like a brotherly bond that really couldn't be broken until like death. And we really grew close to these brothers. We were kind of like a gang, because we stole cars and stole out of cars, and we did a lot of bad things. But that was one thing that I needed to learn. I needed to learn that for some reason, and I can't say that now that I sit here, I do believe I'm a better man. I don't steal cars anymore. I have a job, and but I did spend a lot of years getting caught. I got caught for stealing cars, and I sat on house arrest for probably 3 years. And I was in juvenile detention centers for God knows how. I remember there's a place in Pittsburgh called Schumann Center. It's for like kids that get into trouble, and it's kind of like a juvenile delinquent center. And I remember I was in there for probably a month because my mother couldn't get the electricity bill on, and it was bad. these kids were in there. They're like, "Oh, I did this, I did that." I'm like, "My mom can't pay the electricity bill.
Oh
That's why
my
I'm here."
goodness.
Yeah, because with the
That's
house
terrible.
arrest thing, you had to be hooked up to electricity, and if it didn't happen like that, they'd keep you in there.
Wow. Goodness.
Yeah, I was pretty institutionalized. My earlier teens, kind of later teens. There was a couple times family members came in and they actually got us out of placement. And they let us live with them. The one time was with one of my aunts, and I lived there, and it was kind of a rural area. It was really nice. It was nice to see like a normal setting, not like, because I lived kind of in a rougher area in the city of Pittsburgh. So kind of moving out to that rural area, it was really nice. But then I guess, life got hard. I totally understand. So she had to get me back up and kind of went back to the placement. And then another aunt of mine took me and my brother, and we lived there for a while. And then it's been a hard upbringing. I've dealt with a lot of things. My dad was he was a drug addict, and he was also an alcoholic. And when I was younger, there was different times in my life where God like kind of did these lessons with me, where like I could sit here and like, oh, poor me, I went through all this stuff, but it made me a better person, and it made me who I am today. So I would definitely go back and do it again if I had to. It's a lot of hard nights, but it's something that I know that I can get through because of where I am today.
Do you feel
But
like,
also,
I was just going to ask real quick, do you feel like that, the rough times you had in your upbringing, was that like kind of key to have you start questioning things like the government, question what we've been taught in school? Was that kind of, you think, part of your awakening?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I was always, you could ask any of my friends and family, I always had some type of weapon on me. I always wanted to be able to protect myself, and I love knives, I love axes, and I'm always having some type of weapon on me. But for some reason, I felt like I needed to protect myself because I was never able to protect my own self, and no one was really there to protect me. So, going through all that, and then now learning that all I need is my father to protect me, and that's all I really need. I mean, I could literally, I could stand in front of 1,000 people and not be afraid at all. As long as God is beside me, no one can stand against me.
Amen.
Knowing that, I slowly started to realize that I didn't need this stuff. That the weapons and all these different things that I wanted to guard myself with. I didn't need those at all. As long as I had my father, as long as I was in good alignment with my father, I was untouchable for real. And yeah, it definitely brought me on the path of truth of where I am today. I mean, a lot of things, you gotta question. You're living on the streets, and you really can't eat. You gotta be able to discern different people and discern different things that are going on. And I kind of feel like I was built indestructible. I'm literally made to go through anything. I mean, I've been through a lot of different scenarios that not a lot of people can say they've been through, and I survived them, and I went through them, and I'm living better than I was, and my life has really progressed in a better way. I found a wife. I have 3 beautiful children. I've just bought a brand new house, and things are really working out for me. But I know that one day I'm going to have to run back to the wilderness, where I have this calling to me all the time to just go back to the wilderness. And if you look throughout the Bible, every time the Israelites got in trouble or some type of thing happened, they went to the wilderness. And I feel like there's a special type of like treatment that the Father gives us, like just like with the Father and the Son, He teaches His children. And if you looked at the Israelites when they were in the wilderness, they were totally just being pounded in their head, taught, how to fight, how to survive, and how to live, how to be men. And that's one thing that I'm very eager to get to. But I also know that He has me in the thick of it. He has me right in dead smack in the center of the city, and that's just where I'm going to be until He calls me out.
Yes, amen. I believe that He has all of us right where He wants us for now, and we'll see what happens during the tribulation, I think. But it's always good to kind of have a plan, right? To kind of have like a backup plan, and in case we're not able to live in our houses that we have now anymore, and to have the skills that you've learned when just being on the street. You know, that's very valuable, I think. I think you and Isaac are going to have a great conversation in a few weeks, discussing and comparing notes, basically, about what it was like to be raised in the system for a part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, I bet his story wasn't easy as well. But I mean, there was definitely times where, you know, I totally wanted to run, but they gave me the option of running as well. There was some places where now, like unlike juvenile detention center, that was kind of a lockdown scenario where they like put an iron door and lock you in at night. But the group homes that I was in, the placements, they had the door open and they said you could run, but you know the cops are going to pick you up. You're going to go to Schumann and you're just going to get, you know, processed all the way through, brought back right to us. So I always kind of looked at it as, you know, I could have ran away. My older sister, she did run away. And she was about 16. When we got sent to placement, she ran away and she had friends and she made it all the way to 18, living on the streets. And
Wow.
yeah, it really didn't turn out that good for her. She ended up spiraling downwards and kind of getting into drugs. And it took a really hard toll on her because of my earlier childhood. When we were kids, you know, my dad wasn't really around, so my mom had to raise us. She wasn't, you know, the best mother. You know, she wasn't the best mother in the world, but she still was my mom.
Right.
So my sister had to step in, and she had to become the mother figure, and she really did. There was a lot of nights we didn't have food, and she would come around and she would help out, and she was there raising us, being our mother, and it was a real stress on her. And eventually she got into drugs, and it was too much for her, and she killed herself.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
But it's okay. It's like I said, for some reason, when I was younger, it felt like death was following me for some reason. Because like when my dad died, it was kind of around the same time my sister died. Really, when my dad died, it was hard because he would step in and out of my life, but really he wasn't there. So it was way harder for my sister if I was like a bonded of something that I was bonded to, and we struggled. You know, when you struggle with someone, you create this bond that it's unbreakable, and it really was hard for me going through my sister's death. And then for some reason, it was like death was following me. That summer, pretty much two of my best friends that died in the same year.
Oh my goodness.
One was tragically murdered, murdered at a bar. He was shot, pretty much gunned down in front of the bar. And then the other friend, he was on his way to work, and he got a flat tire on the highway, and a semi-truck pretty much swept him under and took him. And
Wow.
yeah, it was a little rough at that point. It was like I was questioning life. I didn't know where I was going, and the one thing that pretty much saved me from going down this path was this research. It was looking into the Bible, and you know, once I caught on to this research, I finally found like that. I found why I was supposed to be here. Like, what am I here for? You know, why am I here? You know, what is this all about? Why would you put me through all this stuff? Why would I be put through all this stuff for what? And I really believe it was so I can withstand. You know, if you read throughout the Bible, it says endure to the end, endure to the end. I'm like, man, that's me. I'm doing it.
That's right. It feels like too, like the enemy can't know the future, of course, and he can kind of know who the Most High has his hands on from a young age, and who feels like they're seems to be like especially protected, if that makes any sense. Like with Isaac, as you're telling the story, I'm looking at Isaac going, this is like you, because he experienced a lot of loss in his life, especially among his friends throughout his life. And and I'm so sorry to hear about your sister and your dad too. it's just, it seems like the Most High protects those who he knows has the potential to become a watchman. And Satan somehow knows that too, or he sees the extra protection, and it seems like the Satan will definitely come against those who he thinks could like have an amazing role in the end times, or in their life's purpose. I mean, against all the saints for sure, all the believers, that everyone who's a part of this group, it seems like they definitely have their work cut out for them, for the Most High, and especially in the end times. It seems like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
No, definitely, you're 100% on. I mean, God gives his toughest battles to his greatest warriors.
Yes.
That's what I believe.
That's a good way to say it.
That's how I kind of looked at it. And also, we're told that in the book of Hebrews that Yeshua, he learned obedience through suffering. So that's like, that's amazing. So through his suffering, he learned how to be obedient. And that's one thing that when I was younger, I was a rebel. We used to go and break into houses, and we would trash parties, and I loved the fight for some reason. I really liked it because it didn't hurt me. Getting hit in the face, it kind of like made me want to fight more. And when I had that group of friends when we were younger, we used to always just fight each other just to get each other, because we knew that if we fought each other enough, those butterflies would go away. That you get a butterfly, any type of stressful situation. Well, if you do it enough and enough and enough, eventually those will go away. And so we wanted to kind of be unstoppable, and we used to beat the crap out of each other.
Oh.
And one thing I never realized that there was times we would mostly hit in the chest area. If you hit in the face, you got to stop the fight and then let the other guy hit you in the face to get back. But there were some things where when me and my friends were fighting, I would lift my chest, my arms up, and just let them go to town. I didn't care because I liked it. It was just weird, and I didn't really understand or know until later on that I got into a car accident with my mother. She might have been under the influence, I really don't know. But I went to the hospital, and they gave me an x-ray. And they were looking at my ribs, and they were asking my mom, they were like, how many times has he broken his ribs? And she was like, he's never broken his ribs. And they're like, oh no, his ribs have been broken about three to two times. And she was thinking in her head, what could have caused his ribs to break. And she kind of remembered back when my dad lived with us, he used to get really drunk, and he would sit on top of me and punch me in my chest. But when I was a kid, I kind of thought that was normal. I didn't really know that it was kind of he might have been just taking his anger out on me, or just too drunk. I really don't know, but supposedly he broke my ribs a couple times. And also they found that I had 3 missing discs in my lower back. So the doctor was like, dude, your back's gonna be ruined when you're older. But then he's looking at the way my ribs kind of grew back, and he's like, the way there was cartilage that grew around, or some type of calcium or something. It grew around my rib cage, and it condensed them. He was like, you have the biggest set of rib cages I've ever seen. He was like, and they're strong, and they're durable, and he was like, they're actually supporting your back.
Wow.
And so through all that bad stuff happening, it was a blessing. It was a hidden blessing from God. Okay, you're gonna go through some stuff, but really, it's gonna help you out in the end.
Well, here, this is a quick snippet of what God told Isaac a week before he became a quadriplegic. I don't know if you've heard that part of his testimony, but he's a...
I had. That was amazing, bro.
So Isaac, say that what God showed you in that vision, very similar to what Zach just said.
Oh yeah, I guess it kind of was, huh? Well, he was just like, I'm going to put you through something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, but just trust me and you'll get through it.
And the glory will go to him.
Yep.
So he told him that in a vision, a week before the accident. And Isaac told me this, and I'm just thinking, okay, I'm not sure where this is going from, but I hope it's not something horrible. And so he knew right away, as soon as the accident happened, he said, "This is it. This is going to be used for His glory," and it definitely has. That's what my latest book is on his whole life. But thank you so much, Zach. I think we're going to wrap it up here, and then I know you have some more things to share. So if you can save that for the next time when you come on our channel, and I'm so glad that you've agreed to come on again in a few weeks. And everyone has just really enjoyed hearing you speak, and in the chat, everyone has really awesome comments, and they're just saying that yes, that whole story about you being a survivor, and it just really speaks to a lot of people here that are part of our fellowship. So I think that everybody is excited to have you back. I know that Isaac will definitely be ready to talk to you a little more about his story. Now he's heard parts of yours, and I think that, would you mind closing us out in prayer, Zach, and then we'll be ending class? Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, someone's calling me. I might have went out. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, awesome. Father God, we thank you for everything. We thank you for bringing us all together. We ask you to keep our doors open, Father, that people may continue to come into our study and our fellowship, Father. We thank you for sending your Holy Spirit down upon us so that we may see things clearly, and we may do the things that of your will, Father. We thank you so much for letting us come together, and we ask you to letting us please continue to keep coming together like this. And we know that eventually one day we won't be able to come together like this, Father. So we thank you for that, and all praise goes to you, Father. And I know that everything, this life is not the best. It may seem difficult, but He's refining us. You know, you're definitely refining us, Father, and I thank you so much for that. All praise be to you, and I pray to you in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining in our fellowship today, and look forward in a few weeks. Zach will be back to share more of his testimony and some more amazing information that, like he's been sharing today. And just thank you. Give all the glory to the Most High. And thank you again, Zach. You have a wonderful evening. I know it's pretty late where you're at right now. Sun is just going down over here in Hawaii, so it's still a little bit late here. But I just want to say goodbye to everyone, and we'll see you guys all next weekend. You'll be meeting, or is that next weekend? Yes, not next weekend. Isaac
You got somebody else. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a different person, but Zach will be on in a few weekends from now. So to all of you out there, thank you for joining with us today, and a big shaloha.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Shaloha.
See ya.
Thank you, Zach.